He was born where ceilings touched the sky and footsteps echoed on marble like commands, where gold was common as dust and silence wore a crown. They named him Prince before he learned his own breath, wrapped destiny around his shoulders heavier than armor. Every smile given to him had a reason hidden behind it. Every bow bent with expectation, never affection. He learned early that love spoken loudly was often empty, and love whispered was forbidden. In halls where chandeliers burned like frozen stars, he walked alone, his shadow the only thing that never asked for favor. He watched laughter from a distance, servants sharing bread and jokes, hands brushing without fear, eyes meeting without consequence. That was the love he missed before he even knew its name. They taught him power, how to rule lands, how to read men's intentions like maps drawn in ink and blood. But no one taught him how to sit beside someone without a throne between them. At banquets, music rose like celebration, yet his heart stayed quiet, listening for a voice that spoke to him, not his title. He dreamed of mornings without ceremony, of waking to sunlight instead of duty, to a hand reaching for his, not because it must, but because it wants to. Once, he saw her in a marketplace far from the palace gates. She laughed freely, as if the world owed her nothing and she owed it joy. She did not bow. She did not know his name. For a moment, he was no one, and it was the most alive he had ever felt. They spoke of simple things, weather, bread, tired feet, dreams too small for history, but large enough for the heart. When she smiled at him, it was unmeasured, unafraid, untouched by ambition. That night, he returned to his palace carrying something fragile he had never been given before. Hope frightened him. Days passed like rehearsed lies, but nights belonged to memory. He replayed her voice instead of royal decrees, her laughter louder than crowns. Yet love, when simple, is often forbidden to those born into complexity. Advisors warned him, walls whispered caution, the throne reminded him what he would lose. He stood between two futures, one written in gold, one written in breath. In the end, he chose duty, not because it was right, but because it was trained into him like instinct. She never knew why he disappeared, only that one day the market felt quieter. Years crowned him king. Statues wore his likeness. Songs praised his reign. History approved of him. But in private rooms, he removed the crown and felt how light his head was without it, how heavy his heart remained. He missed a love that never asked for forever, only presence. He missed hands unafraid to touch him, eyes that did not see power, a life where love did not require permission. Sometimes, at dawn, he walks the gardens alone, listening for laughter that no longer belongs to him. He rules wisely. He is remembered well. The years do not ask permission as they pass. They move through him like quiet soldiers, taking more than they give. The palace grows familiar with his footsteps, yet never warm. Even the walls seem to know he belongs to them, but they do not belong to him. He watches children in the courtyard, sons of servants chasing sunlight, their laughter careless, their futures unclaimed. Once, he had been like that, before duty learned his name. At council meetings, voices clash like swords, arguments sharpened by ambition. He listens, decides, rules. But inside, another voice asks nothing of the world except to be heard. At night, he dreams again, not of crowns falling or kingdoms burning, but of a small room with open windows where love waits without ceremony. In those dreams, she is not always the same woman, yet always the same feeling. Simple, honest, unafraid. He wakes with the ache of something almost remembered, like a melody unfinished. Letters arrive daily, sealed with wax and expectation. Proposals of marriage, alliances disguised as affection. He reads them all with the patience of a man who knows the ending. Love offered to him now comes dressed in strategy, its smile practiced, its hands calculating. He does not blame them. The world has taught them what his world taught him. Sometimes he wonders if simple love survives at all, or if it only exists for those who never had to choose between heart and history. He visits villages under disguise, listens instead of commands. There, love is still clumsy, still loud, still real. He sees couples argue over nothing, make peace over bread, grow old without applause. He envies them without bitterness, only longing. Once, an old man recognizes him, not by face, but by sadness. The prince does not answer. Some truths do not need sound. As seasons turn, his reflection changes. Lines form where smiles were rare. Silver appears where hope once lived. Still, his heart remains young in the one place time cannot reach. He keeps no portrait of her, no token of their meeting. Simple love leaves no evidence, only absence. On lonely evenings, he plays music himself, fingers unsure, notes imperfect. That imperfection comforts him. In those moments, he is not ruler or symbol, but a man learning how it feels to express without command. Sometimes he imagines another life, one where he walked away, where history cursed his name but someone spoke it softly at night. He does not regret his people. He regrets the rule that demanded sacrifice without asking consent. As age settles beside him, the throne grows colder. Legacy approaches like an unavoidable guest. He prepares his successor carefully, teaching them strength but whispering caution about the cost of wearing crowns. On his final years, he spends more time outdoors, watching skies that never bowed to him. One evening, as sunset bleeds gold into blue, he feels peace. Not joy, but understanding. Simple love, he realizes, was never meant to be owned. It was meant to be missed, to remind him he was human before he was royal. When his story is told, they will speak of victories, of wisdom, of a reign without cruelty. They will not mention the quiet prince who loved something small more than power. But in the silence between words, in the space where history breathes, his truth remains. After peace settles into his bones, memories grow bolder. They no longer ache. They glow, like lanterns seen from far away. He remembers his mother's voice, soft despite the crown she wore. How she once told him love should feel like rest, not obligation. He did not understand then. Now it echoes. The palace prepares for the inevitable, though no one says the word aloud. Corridors whisper farewell with every step he takes. He walks slower, not from weakness, but from intention. Each moment matters now. He revisits rooms long abandoned, places where ambition once gathered. Dust covers plans that never mattered. In a small chamber near the east wing, he finds a window that opens toward the market road. He stands there often. Below, life continues without knowing his name. Vendors argue kindly, children chase shadows, love unfolds in imperfect rhythms. It comforts him to know the world did not wait for him. Sometimes he imagines she might still walk there, older, perhaps, laugh softer, but still free. He does not seek her. Simple love should never be hunted. When illness finally arrives, it comes without drama, like a guest who has waited long enough. Physicians speak in careful words. He listens with calm. Pain does not frighten him. Regret already taught him endurance. At night, when the palace sleeps deeply, he dreams again. Not of her face, but of a feeling, being chosen without reason. He smiles in his sleep. On his final morning, sunlight reaches his bed without asking permission. He breathes slowly, counting nothing, owning nothing. Those closest to him gather, eyes full of gratitude and sorrow. He takes their hands, one by one, and in each touch there is no command, only thanks. His last thought is simple, not of crown or kingdom, but of a moment when he was unknown and loved anyway. When he is gone, bells ring across the city. History closes a chapter, statues rise, stories polish his name. Yet somewhere, in the quiet places of the world, simple love continues, unaware it was ever missed by a prince. And in that truth, his soul finally rests. After his passing, the palace feels lighter, as if a long-held breath has finally been released. The crown rests in silence, no longer warmed by thought or doubt. The new ruler takes the throne, younger, brighter, carrying ambition like fire. Yet in quiet hours, they feel something missing, a softness not taught in lessons. They remember the old king's eyes, how wisdom there was never sharp, only deep. In the city, life continues. Markets bloom and fade with seasons. Lovers meet and part. Children are born without prophecy. Simple love survives, unrecorded, unstudied, undefeated. Years pass, and the prince becomes legend, not for conquest, but restraint. Bards struggle to explain why his reign felt gentle. They speak of mercy, but miss the source. It was longing that made him kind. In a distant village, an old woman tells a story to her grandchildren. She speaks of a young man who once asked her about bread and laughed too quietly for a stranger. She never knew who he was. But when she speaks, her voice carries warmth, as if recalling sunlight through an open door. Somewhere between memory and myth, the prince lives on, not as ruler, but as absence, an empty space where love could have lived, and in not living there taught the world its value. The kingdom prospers, peace becomes ordinary, history moves forward, unaware of the sacrifice beneath it. Yet sometimes, on evenings when the air is kind, people feel a quiet gratitude without knowing why. That is him, not watching, not ruling, but reminding. That power without love is hollow, and love without power is still enough. The story fades now, as all stories must, but the truth remains, written not in books, but in the hearts of those who choose simple love over crowns. And somewhere beyond names, beyond time, a prince smiles, finally whole, finally free. Long after the story quiets, long after names lose their weight, the feeling remains. A soft pressure in the world, like a hand resting over the heart of time. The kingdom changes its shape, borders blur, flags fade, palaces crumble into memory. Yet simple love does not age. It appears in small houses, in shared cups of tea, in arguments forgiven before sleep. Unknowing, the world carries his lesson forward. Some say souls return when unfinished truths remain. If so, his does, not as prince, not as king, but as someone ordinary. Born without prophecy, without velvet or vows, he enters life crying for the first time with nothing to lose. His hands are empty, his future unclaimed. He grows among people who touch without fear, who love without permission. When he laughs, it surprises him. How easy it feels. There is no throne to protect, no history to disappoint. When he loves, it is clumsy, sometimes wrong, always real. He argues, he apologizes, he stays. And in staying, something ancient inside him finally rests. At times he feels a strange familiarity with sunsets, with crowns in museums, with stories of lonely kings. But the feeling passes, unimportant now. Simple love does not ask for remembrance. He grows old beside someone who knows his flaws by name and chooses him anyway. Their life is small by history's measure, yet vast enough to hold everything he once missed. When death comes again, It is gentle. No bells ring. No statues rise. Only hands hold his, and that is enough. Somewhere, in the quiet structure of existence, a balance is restored. The prince who missed simple love becomes the man who lived it, and the world, without ever knowing, becomes softer because of it. From that ordinary life, ripples move outward. Love, once chosen, never ends with one soul. Children are born into warmth rather than expectation. They learn kindness before ambition. They do not know they carry the echo of a crown laid down centuries ago. In their laughter, the old loneliness dissolves further. Stories are told at night, simple ones, about honesty, about staying, about choosing people over pride. These stories travel, unnoticed, but powerful. They shape how hands reach, how voices soften, how forgiveness arrives early. The world does not become perfect. It becomes human. Wars still rise, but so do those who refuse them. Power still tempts, but love teaches resistance. Somewhere, a leader pauses before cruelty, feeling something unfamiliar. Hesitation. That hesitation is the prince's final gift. Time stretches onward, layering lives upon lives. The origin fades, but the effect remains. Simple love becomes courage. Courage becomes change. And change, quietly, becomes legacy. No monument bears his name. No anthem sings his sorrow. Yet in moments when someone chooses presence over pride, they unknowingly honor him. The universe keeps count in ways history cannot. Love, once denied, learns patience. It waits through centuries, through crowns and graves, until it is finally lived. Not once, but endlessly. And so the poem continues without needing words, written daily in ordinary lives. The prince who missed simple love is no longer missing. In the spaces between moments where nothing important seems to happen, love does its most faithful work. It pours water, waits in doorways, listens without fixing. These small acts, unnoticed by history, reshape the world more deeply than any decree. Some feel a pull they cannot explain, a need to return home earlier, to forgive faster, to hold longer. They call it instinct. It is memory without a name. The prince no longer watches, no longer waits. He is not a soul apart. He is the softness inside decisions, the pause before harm, the warmth behind courage. When lovers argue and choose kindness instead of victory, he is there. When someone walks away from power because it costs too much of the heart, he is there. Time eventually forgets kings entirely, but it never forgets how love once changed its course. The universe favors balance. What was denied once is returned many times over, and so existence leans gently toward connection, toward simple truths, toward lives that matter not because they are seen, but because they are shared. The poem thins now, like twilight fading into night. No grand ending waits. No final line declares completion. Because simple love has no conclusion. It continues every time someone chooses to be present, to be honest, to be human. And somewhere, beyond title and memory, the prince rests, not in glory, but in belonging.